Welcome back to Call of Cthulhu, Alone Against the Flames. Yes, multiple flames, not just one. Okay, so we have been told to make a character. So I will attempt to do that. Hopefully. I know that the Character Mancer, that is a Roll20 tool for basically quick building a D&D character, exists, but I don't know if that is also affecting the Call of Cthulhu stat sheet. Let's take a look. Yeah, gotta start with the name. Artwork, probably figure something out between this and next episode. 1920s. Well, naming conventions haven't really... I suppose they have changed somewhat, but there are still things that remain more or less the same. But... Of course, I should have anticipated this. I knew that character creation was going to be a thing, and I didn't think about a name. Oh, I think I got it. Ernest McCulloch. Saved. Yeah, I'm not gonna go all into that right now. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's move myself out of the way. Oh, there's a Character Mancer. Oh, that's great. Let's go see to it then. I'm gonna go with a standard character. Creating investigators. Maybe we should actually take our time and read this. This could be semi-important. Okay, I can't make it that one bigger. To play Call of Cthulhu, you need to create an investigator character. Creating your investigator is a series of steps which are described below. The following process is a simplified version designed to get you up and running as quickly as possible. A more detailed process, with many more options to fashion investigators, can be found in the Call of Cthulhu Keeper rulebook, so that's like the Dungeon Master's Guide, and Investigator Handbook, so that's the Player's Handbook. Investigator Sheet. Players record the details of their investigators on a Call of Cthulhu investigator sheet. I'm guessing that's what we briefly saw before. The investigator sheet holds all information needed to play the game. Let's go with the standard one and just take whatever stats gets out of this, because I don't know anything about the stats. I mean, I can see what they are. So, strength, constitution, size, dexterity, appearance, intelligence, power, education, and luck. Now, I don't know much about it, but I'm going to assume that luck is probably fairly important down the line. Let's go with roll all. So let's go out in the chat so we can actually see what that is. Now, do I have... I always like to do this when I'm playing on Roll20. Dice option, yes. To have 3D dice put as an option, because rather than, having the dice in my hand and rolling them, which I also could, as I could record that. I mean, I do have a phone and a dice tray and plenty of dice, so... But that's... And I'm assuming that it probably won't work as well, given that this is set up as being meant for rolling in Roll20. Let's go with the standard and click roll all, see what that does, see if something Okay. So strength 45, constitution 80. That's, I mean, I don't know if, so I have heard that using the percentile, that lower is actually better, but I think that's when you roll for a check or something like that. I don't know if that has to do with the with the base stats either. So, well, I said I'm gonna go with that, so I'm gonna go with that. Boop. Characteristics. Okay. So I currently have 13 hit points. My sanity is 50, and I have 10 points for magic. Ooh. So I could just ride an H. I could also roll for an H. I think, yeah, I think let's go with the roll. It seems to make more sense. 39. Make an improvement check for education. Okay. Okay. So I got a 9 increase in my education. Okay. Well, I think this is okay. What have we got? Suggested occupations. Oop. Perhaps there was something about age. I'll just go back and take a look at what it says, because I actually want to read it. Let's see here. Oh, it was the same, right? Stats maybe? Did it say anything there, or was that the same? That was the same. Okay. Occupation then. At this point, you should form an idea of what your investigator does for a living. Remember, the term investigator does not restrict you to just being a cop or private eye. This choice of occupation will influence the selection of skills available to your investigator. To begin with, choose an occupation. Anything you think would be interesting to player is valid, but you should agree this with your keeper. Some favorite occupations in Call of Cthulhu are professor, journalist, occultist, and archaeologist. The choice of occupation is only limited by your imagination. Either pick an occupation from the list following and use the specified list of skills provided, or tailor one to your requirements. To do this, decide upon an occupation, then look at the list of skills on the investigator sheet, then choose 8 skills that are appropriate for your investigator's chosen occupation. For example, what skills would a person doing this occupation require? These are your investigator's occupation skills. Use some scratch paper to note down your investigator's occupation skill. Scratch paper? I don't think that's just readily available to most people. At least, I don't think it is. I suppose craft shops and such are a thing, but yeah, I definitely don't have any scratch paper. But then again, I am doing it online, so... Okay. You now assign points to the skill on the investigator sheet. No player can add points to the Cthulhu Mythos skill during character creation, as it is assumed that all beginning characters are ignorant of the threat of the mythos. Allocate the following values among the 8 occupation skills, and also credit rating skill. 1 at 70%, 2 at 60, 3 at 50, and 3 at 40. Set the skills directly to these values and ignore the skill base values written next to each skill on the investigator sheet. Ooh, I think... Oh. Ah, okay. Oh, so I could probably... So it suggested that I just... Instead of using the Charactermancer, used the edit sheet directly option. Oh, well, now we're doing this instead. Let's see. Example. Susan has chosen to play a journalist and allocates the following value. Art, craft, photography 50%, history 40%, library use 50%, own language English 60%, psychology 40%. She chooses persuade as an interpersonal skill, giving it 70%, very persuasive. She then looks down the skill list on the investigator sheet and picks 2 other skills that she thinks might be useful for a journalist. Spot hidden 50% and stealth 60%. She has one value, 40% left to allocate to credit rating. Susan writes these numbers into the regular large box next to each of the skills. After assigning points to the occupation skills, select your investigator's personal interest skills. These are skills that your character has acquired outside of work. Pick 4 non-occupation skills and boost them by 20%, adding 20 to the skill base values listed next to the skills on the investigator sheet. We recommend that you write your skill values down in the same format as your characteristics. Regular, half, fifth values, as you will need to refer to these during the game. Of course, if you prefer, you can just write the full value of each skill and do the math in your head during the course of the game. Another example. Brian chooses soldier as an occupation. As this occupation is not on the list in this book, he chooses 8 skills that seem most appropriate. Climb, dodge, fighting, firearms, first aid, other language, stealth, and survival. Brian sets these occupation skill values as follows. Climb 60, credit rating 40, dodge 60, fighting 70, firearms 50, first aid 40, other languages 50, Spanish, stealth 50, and survival 40. Brian then picks 4 personal interest skills, raising each one by 20%. Adding 20 to the skill's base value written on the sheet. Drive auto 40%, jump 40%, mechanical repair 30%, and spot hidden at 45%. Each skill value is then written on the sheet next to the skill as the regular half and fifth values, such as spot hidden 45, 22, 9. Okay, so it says a little bit about them here. Okay, well, we should probably close down one. That probably doesn't need to come into play right now. I should probably move... Yeah, that's probably fine with me up there. So anything... I'm not going to go into a custom skill. That seems a little too much work. Maybe that's something I can do once I'm more accustomed to the system. Not right now. 39. Yeah, I think a police detective is... So I can choose another one. What is this? Skill points calculations. Edu times 2 plus dex times 2, or edu times 2 plus strength times 2. I'm gonna go with strength. Choose a skill. Acting? Intimidating and... Oh, so we can just choose an extra one here. Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. Specialization. Nah, I don't think we need that. Track might be useful, but I'm gonna go with stealth because that seems again to be... Although persuade seems less hostile than intimidate, so... Okay. Skill descriptions. That's just what each thing is. I'm not gonna go through all of those. That will take a long time to read all of this. They are more or less pretty self-explanatory by their name. Let's click next then. Okay, what do I do here? Here it would actually be helpful with the text, you know, because I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe this was a mistake. Yeah. Let's not go like this, because we have this here. Let's try and follow that instead. So, have it taken any of the values? I don't think so. I don't rightly know so. It is in edit mode, so I should be able to just edit things. Okay. Let's see. At the top you have spaces for 8, so that's these. So log is not included, I'm assuming. Writing them all in a large square. Well, let's go as close to what we rolled as possible. So strength 45. I'm gonna round that up to 50. Okay, so it automatically does that. That's handy. Let's see, what do we have next? Constitution should be high, so let's go with 80. Ah, it actually fits. Then we have, what is our next highest? Luck, but that's a different one, so I'm going to put, next highest is education, so I'm going to put 70 into that. Then we have 2 at 60, so that should be those 2 at 50, I think. Oh, that's 3 is at 50. Size? What does size do? I'd assume that it helps against being pushed or stuff like that. That's a little... maybe I should have read into what that actually meant, because that one I'm unsure about. The others are, I think, pretty self-explanatory. Now, obviously, I come from a D&D backing, and size there is something very different, and I wouldn't say not unimportant, but it's certainly not a main stat as it is here. How many 60s do I have? 1, 2. I'm gonna go and put 60 into power and intelligence then, and then use dexterity is our lowest, so we can put that at 40. That fits with this roll. So that means that we have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 50 and 50. Yeah, so that's essentially what that is. Allocate the following values among them, writing them in the large square beside each. 40 and 3 times 50. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 2 times 60. 1, 2, 170 and 180. Yeah, that fits. Okay, let's go to 8. Okay. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher than this, go to 38. We will go to 38. The driver continues to enjoy his cigarette, watching with keen interest as you struggle with the cases. You grit your teeth and heave the second one into place. Perhaps the residents of Arkham will have better manners. Okay. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes you can still see the church spire over the brow of the low hill. Then the road dips, and it too is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. You will see two smaller boxes to the right of each characteristic value. Better bring the sheet up then. You go over here while I read, and you go in here so that it is visible. Have each value, rounding down, and write the result in the upper right box. I think that is this. Also divide each value by 5. Yeah, it does that automatically. So that's basically the blurb text for doing it by hand, I'm guessing. Again, I don't know. If you're using the interactive PDF version on the investigator sheet, you'll see that it does it all the math for you. Yeah, well, it's not the PDF version, it's the VRT, so virtual tabletop. In the strip below, you'll see tracks that records sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original power, and beginning magic points are the same as the value you just assigned for power divided by 5. Mark these on tracks. Okay, so sanity is the same as power. That means 60. Which means that magic is power divided by 5. That would be 12. Yeah. Math. I did not expect to do math. I expected to roll dice. Then go to... Yes, I think I've done it. 134. I love these kinds of stories. The coach putters through the countryside. At first the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields and orchards. Then the leaves are turning, and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You have just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. Add size and con together, then divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value for your hit points. Mark it on your investigator sheet. Your current total may drop, but it is unlikely to exceed the starting value. Ooh, so you don't have a lot of hit points. I guess that makes sense in a sort of cosmic horror sense where you're just a human after all. Okay, size and power. So that is 50 plus 6, no, 50 plus 80. So that's 130. Divide by 10, that's 13. Okay. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided die. We call this 3d6. Multiply your 3d6 result by 5 to to get your beginning log score and mark it on your investigator sheet. Okay, so Roll20 has here a roll table, which, if you're rolling outside of the sheets now, most of the sheet, at least for D&D, everything on the sheet that you want to roll is generally made clickable, which auto rolls and auto does the math, presuming you haven't fiddled with it in some kind of way. 3d6, so we go to d6 and we go to 3 and boop. Okay, that's 11 by times 5, so that would be a log score of 55. I'm presuming that's okay. Yeah, let's not let's not completely hide the dice roller, but let's at least make it. Can I? Oh, well, we can just bring it back when it is. I'll move myself over again. Let's see. Now you must make a roll against your dex. Roll a d100. God, son of a biscuit. Well, it's down here, so I don't need to move myself for this. This means rolling 2 10-sided dice and using one value for tens and 1 value for the units, unless one die is clearly a tens die. See role-playing dice on page 4. Yep. I mean, if you rolled equal to your dex or less, you pass the roll. Ooh, that's my lowest score. If you rolled greater than your dex, you fail the roll. You may be tempted to skip such rolls and simply pretend you always pass, but Call of Cthulhu is a game of mystery and horror. The terrible disasters that can befall your character are part of the fun. You will not necessarily have more fun if you pass every roll than you would have if you failed. Okay. Well, I'm going to follow the rolls as intended, regardless of what happens. That's part of the adventure, right? So 1d100. Boop. See, in D&D, I'd be happy about that because high is usually good. That's what I was talking about. So, that's a fail. That's a hard. That's almost as much of a fail as it could be. Oh, well, I failed, so let's go to 59. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. Too late, you reach for the seat in front. You fall into the aisle and your ribs crash against the edge of the seat opposite. Breath rushes out of you. The coach stops with a thump. The driver leaps from his seat into the road. As you sprawl, dizzy, in the aisle, you hear a string of incendiary curses. The driver climbs back into the cab and sees you on the floor. He looks concerned and assists you back into your seat. You see what has happened now. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road and he had to swerve to avoid this steel obstacle. Sorry, he says. All them fields and he has to pick the road to park. You're right. You don't think anything is broken, but you'll have a colorful bruise for the next few days. He backs the coach up a little and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. You lost 1 hit point in the accident. Oh. Mark the loss on your investigator sheet, but keep track of the original value. You will eventually heal back up to this value. If you dropped 0 hit points, you'll fall unconscious and you might die. Okay, that didn't sound like a straight out die, so 0 isn't necessarily. I mean, it's bad, but it's not necessarily that bad. Okay, 12. Go to 71. Well, hello. Is that 1920s attire? I really don't know. That's a time period that I don't really have a lot of knowledge about. So, and I guess it's also different from place to place. You resume your journey. The driver takes curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulders at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That fellow was dumber than a hawk. I'm Silas. What's your name? The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he's driving you through the middle of nowhere. Make up a name for your character and record it on your investigator sheet. Already did that. You may add your age. For the purpose of this adventure, your character should probably be aged between 23 and 36. Well, we rolled 39, so let's go with the closest, which is 36. Well, the name was already recorded, so that should not be an issue. Yes. The coach turns into a narrow road which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I've ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there? Special someone waiting? The afternoon is wearing on, and you see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. A job, eh? What's your line? Ooh. Okay, so I get to choose here, so that it narrows down the options. So this didn't have my intended, but this didn't have the police investigator, which was what I chose there. I do have a decent education, and I suppose an above average intelligence. But would it make sense to be a doctor? I'm not entirely sure it would, actually. It's a little... It's a little hard to gauge. I mean, I could roll a die and basically go with... You know what? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So let's... I have to move me again. Bring you down here. Move me back into place. There. There. Okay. So a D5. Now that's not a dice, but you can actually roll it in Roll20 by going R /R. You can see here I can also type roll, but /R would also do, and then I could actually just type 1d5. Now, seeing as that is not a valid dice over here, it won't roll a 5-sided die across the screen. Now the way I do it in my videos is usually to roll a d10, because you know that is divisible by 5, or d20. That could also work. I don't think I will be rolling a lot of d20s. Let's go with that. So 1 through 4, antiquary. 5 through 8, doctor of medicine. 9 through 12, journalist. 13 through 16, private investigator, and 17 through 20, professor. Boop. 17. Okay, a professor. Yeah, that would work with the sort of average strength, like probably more of a bookworm. I'm probably gonna have a little harder explaining the Constitution, but yeah, let's go with it. Boop. Okay, I'll remove that. You explain that you are joining the faculty at the renowned Miskatonic University. It's only a junior position with teaching and tutoring duties, but the institution is well regarded. Who knows where the appointment might lead? A symposium, a visiting lectureship, even one of its world-spanning expeditions. Silas wrinkles his nose. I had enough of book learning when I was a young'un, so I suppose it's well enough for those who like it. Your credit rating skill is 30%. Your occupational skills are library use, other language, specify one, own language, and psychology. You may also pick 4 other skills, not Cthulhu Mythos, as relevant academic or personal specialities. Allocate the following values among these occupational skills, writing them in the large square beside each. So, okay, so that's basically doing what we were actually doing before. So I guess being 39 is what caused this improvement roll. Okay. Which would probably also suggest that if you get old enough, you get negative points to more physical abilities, but might get smart. Might. Okay, let's see. So we should bring the sheet for this. Okay, you go out to the side, and you stay here in the middle. Okie dokie. Professor. Not a professor. There we go. Professor. Oh, so I can click them and then basically, so it's basically like a prepared spell in that one. Okay. So, library use, other language. Where are you at? Oh yeah, credit rating 30, so I should write that. Where do we have other languages? Oh, languages, own. Own language was one of them. Boop. And psychology. There. And then other language. I guess I have to write that in here. Looks like it, yes. Okay. Let's see, 1920s. And in New England near Boston. I think it would make sense that it would be German. Okay. You may also pick 4 other skills. Okay. So what... Natural world. Yes, that's probably not a bad one. Psychoanalysis? I don't know. Spot hidden. Fast talk? No, I don't think that would make a whole lot of sense. History definitely would. Computer use in the 1920s? I don't think so. Yeah, let's go with anthropology. Okay, so 70, 60, 60, 50, 50, 50, and 40, 40. Okay. So I think what I am a professor in would be, so that is among those with a dot that I can place that. Um, Professor at history? Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay, what would... Anthropology? That's... No, psychology, yes. Well, I can put 60 in both of them, so let's do that. And then we have 3 skills at 50. I guess that's here. And 50. And then 2 of 40, so that's spot hidden. And what was the last one? Natural world. 40. Okay, go to 128. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge, and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into a hazy cloud. There's no settlement, not even a cabin, as far as the eye can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be 2 white-tailed deer lingering by the water. Perhaps you are making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills, listed in brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb and a base dodge equal to half your dex. Oh, okay. Choose 4 skills which are not occupation skills, nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Boost each of these by 20 points. When I take up shooting, I suppose that still is a somewhat common hobby. So let's go with that. So it says boost, but those before said ignore. That leads me to think that this should be 45 then. Okay. 4 skills, so 2 more. Yeah, riding? Horse riding? No, I don't think so. I also don't think I should be usage check mark. So the check mark is basically whatever I want it to be. That does not necessarily mean anything. Yeah, let's just let it stay in here. What else do we have? Accounting? No. Disguise. Again, that doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense. Oh, navigate. I think I sort of I had a story in my head that it, before the options to select a class was actually given, that I wanted to make like a sailor, like a fisherman captain, who then started getting into the occult by essentially getting hired to sail some interesting people off to a small island or something like that, and then things would eventually spiral out of control. That was my headcanon. That was the idea that I sort of had when I thought make a character. Okay. So that's navigate. I'm presuming that that's what it's for. What else do we have? Law. It's probably not a bad idea, especially given the rifle, to have some basic understanding of what, like, firearms law. That's that's a thing. Knowing what you need to have to be able to use and own specific types of weapons. So that's I've only selected 2. So is this true? I mean, that seems very high. I'm gonna assume that I've done it right, and even if I have done it wrong, it's, well, not much that can be done about that right now. Listen, that's probably not a bad one, because, well, students and other members of the faculty, for example. Yeah, let's go with stealth. So there's a mixture of both physical and skills like that. At this point, you may like to calculate 1/2 and 1/5 of each skill in just the same way. So this isn't. So it does that automatically on the PDF version. Doesn't do that here. I'm not gonna do that. If the situation calls for it, we'll do it then. Go to 144. The motor coach rattles on through the hills and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view. A settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen of Ossipee, but perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't even recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the wheel. You seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings, low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. You must now choose to make a roll against Drive Auto or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. If you choose Psychology, you need a hard success. So I think that is what I can do up here. Does it change the values? Oh, so yeah, here I what does toggle do? Oh, so that's basically like, if you're not playing with something with computers, you can basically be like, nope, out of the way. That's handy. Toggle all skills off. Yeah, absolutely no skill. That seems fitting for a first character. Okay. Hard success. This roll is equal to less than half. Okay, so that's why you do that. Let's do it like that. Okay. Drive Auto. To beat that, I need to roll lower than a 20. To beat Psychology, I need to roll lower than a 30. So obviously the chances are actually greater to get the hard success. You may attempt only one skill roll. Yeah, I kind of figured as much. Let's go with Psychology then. So half the skill, less, equal to or less than half. 30 or below, please. Nope. Not even close. Silas opens the engine compartment. The engine compartment open and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components, then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Something might be knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools neither, and with the light failing, I reckon we will be here through the night. He wipes his hands on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey, and a night in the rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Emberhead. Miles from any place. I only come through twice a week, but the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look you up. Up that alley. Turn right. First house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again into the engine compartment, and spits on the ground. We'll be back here at 8 in the morning. See how we stand. I don't want to challenge Silas about the breakdown. That seems unnecessarily confrontational, which I don't think my character is. Like, maybe in other situations, like, he's probably the type that if he was questioned on something within his field, so say anthropology, for example, he definitely go and argue and challenge people to, like, what does this mean and stuff like that. But a cab driver, no. Ask Silas where he will spend the night. Well, I think he would spend the night in this cab, or try to fix it and then sleep here. That would make the most sense. I mean, even if it is a place with good people, that is ultimately the cheapest solution. And if it's just in somewhat a sheltered place, it's dry, probably not that cold. I mean, it's definitely not a pleasant place to sleep, but it's better than sleeping outside. But I think this one is not cancelling out this one. That's kind of what I hope. Plus, we might as well be on good terms with Silas. He's the first character we met after all. Boop. Yeah, I figured as much, so that was the same number. You ask about Silas' plans. He gives the engine a sour glance before answering. I got acquaintances here in the village. Reckon one of them owes me a favor. Enough for bed and breakfast in any case. He says that his grubby hands probably won't stretch to a hot bath. You don't seem to have a lot of options. You fit your cases, and off the back of the motor coach, the last thing you need is for all your worldly possessions to disappear into some stranger's hovel overnight. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary, considering you have spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. A nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in neat copperplate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You are not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back, and the wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice has a slight Irish tilt. Lilt? Okay. Hello. Should I take it you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. And me. It's probably more in line with Scottish, but I'm neither Scottish nor Irish, so it's gonna be like that. Go inside and we'll have a talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings, but it is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. "Have you come to Rainbowhead for the festival?" asks May. To explain what happened with Silas and his coach, go to 14. To ask about the festival. So, well, we're not really in a rush, and the way I see it, asking about the festival probably doesn't hurt too much. Yeah, let's ask about the festival. Ooh, okay. Well, now I suppose the festival is about the only reason folks come to Emberhead. I thought you had maybe come to study it or take photographs. Well, it's not tomorrow night, but the night after. I suppose it looks very strange to a passerby. May tops up your tea. The spout chinks against your cup. Well, we got the beacon, you see. One night every year there's a torch-lit procession, and we light the beacon on the cliffs. You've never seen the like of it. They say it keeps the spirit of the village alive for another year. A celebration. A celebration. She tails off for a moment and blinks. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew is dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. So, this seems like the wrong answer. Like, yes, we did take a tumble earlier, but it's not like we're hurt or exhausted from our venture. This one, I don't know, personally it seems a little rude to just wander around someone else's home, even if you are staying the night. Like, if they gave you a tour or deliberately said, make yourself at home, look around, then I wouldn't mind. But I don't think that she have said that. I mean, I should know because it's literally been here. I think this is the one that makes the most sense. May talks about life in Emberhead. In her letters, my sister always asks if I'm not bored living in such a small place. She lives in New York, and she writes about how frightened she is to walk home at night. I ask you. You mentioned your hopes for a new life in Arkham. It doesn't seem to hear you. It's a small place here, yes, but that means we have a real community. Everybody's face is known. Everybody works together. Nobody is excluded, except those who choose to exclude themselves, of course. I couldn't live anywhere else now. Make a charm roll. That's not a great skill, but let's try it. So it's just a regular roll. I mean, the dice be willing, I might as well succeed on this one. Well, what would you look at that? I bloody well did. What is this gonna do? As the hour wears on, May's upbeat manner descends into something more reflective. It's not always easy, but I'm a widow, you know. We have little money, and of course I appreciate the custom of travellers like yourself. I know we'll never starve as long as we live here, but I don't see myself marrying again. I know every man in this village. I know them too well, if you see what I mean. Her mouth twists briefly. She then yawns and pushes a hand through her hair. Time for me to turn in. When would you like your breakfast? On your investigator's sheet, check mark the small box to the left of the word charm. If you successfully complete this adventure, you'll have the opportunity to learn from your experience with May. Oh! That's nice. So that's what they're for. Okay. Well, I suppose I'll uncheck the other ones just in case then. Well, it is the score that really matters, so I suppose the check mark doesn't really do much, but that's cool. I mean, got something nice out of a extremely lucky roll by this. So I'm guessing that's a critical success or something like that. I don't know how it works in this. I have heard a little about that, high is bad, low is good. So seeing as 1 is the lowest, it must be really good. Okay. Boop. Let's move the other one here. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door, securely closed. May tuts. The young lady of the house. She'll have been listening to us. Ruth, come and greet our guest. There's a short pause, then the door creaks open. 2 wide eyes peer at you from the gap between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Hey, I'll get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth. 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It's a little chilly, but you are too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in a town for so long, but you soon drop off. Yeah, I kind of don't think that in a adventure literally titled Alone Against the Flames, you might want to be a little careful with lighting things on fire. Maybe just a little. Tiny bit careful. What? Let me just save it. You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscopic inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor of the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grates before blinking the sleep from your eyes. It's quite cold. If you have taken any damage, you may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. Back to full hit points again. Nice. Go to 166. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you in peace to eat. About 7:30 you are paid up, packed and ready to go. You bid May goodbye and she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, go to 178. I do, but at this point I also only have half an hour till my cab driver needs me. Ugh. Okay. You retrace your steps of last night. A few villagers watch with polite curiosity as you thread your way along the northern cliffs, bags in tow. In time, you think you have found the spot. heart thudding in your chest. You peer over the edge. Nothing. With the benefit of daylight, you see the cliff is not the bottomless drop you imagined. It leads to a shelf some 20 yards below. It could still be a lethal tumble, but you see no body, no blood. Spot hidden roll, eh? Well, I do have a little bit in that. 40. That's not particularly high, but... Nope. That seems more on par with my general thing. You're already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. A sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seemed to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch. Still 20 minutes early and round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. You put your bags down and search the areas, trekking up and down the slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There's no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. "Oh, looking for the boss? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. You need to stay. May let that I rent a room." The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts, but you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. Ooh. Well, I'm presuming that he would have done more had we sort of antagonized him for not driving correctly. Ooh, okay. Let's take a closer look at this. Alright. May is doing laundry and seems surprised to see you again. Forgot something. When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try to arrange alternative transport. You're grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are the first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. Ooh. Is that a burnt down church? Yeah. Could look like, Gothic windows. Tower. Maybe the walls of an older church? Who knows? You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake... Okay. Winnipesaukee? Pesaukee? Winnipesaukee? I don't know how to pronounce that. I could shorten it to Lake Winnipeg, but that would be even more wrong. Let's hope that name doesn't come up too much. The village takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. That's very small. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, three main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. Oh boy, a lot of choices. Okay, 6 choices. All of them seems interesting and important somehow. Let's see. Ask about transport. Sigurd Village Hall. So there are 4 that focus on... No. Wait. 3 that focus on transport, which is the local general store, the village hall, and local people. So it's half and half, essentially. I don't think, given what we've been told thus far, that transport is going to lead to much. Asking about transport for this. It's going to be something like, yeah, the carpenter over 2 houses down, like 5 minutes across, Jesus, has a cart, but his horse is sick. Something along those lines. Or someone has a cart, but it's out gathering supplies for the festival. So, if we presume that asking about transport is basically, yes, you get introduced to some of the NPCs that are in this town. Other than that, I don't think it will lead to anything. So it's really 3 choices rather than 6. Okay, so instead walk to the lower level and check out the eastern road. I don't know. I don't know about that one. That seems a little... Explore the metal structure or explore the church. Well, I do have quite high history, so that would make sense for the church, where to the metal structure is probably more an occult, which, you know... Yeah, I'm gonna go to the church. That seems to make the most sense here. I was going to roll for it, but looking through it, I would rather be like, no, let's approach this from a logical and somewhat sensible approach. Boop. You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze alights on the large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Wait. Oh, you pass it to look at the church. Right, I thought I was going... I thought I was going... that I accidentally clicked the one that was going to the structure. Okay. You back up and look again. Yes, Emberhead's central thoroughfare points directly at the structure. This seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building is in a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing, a ragged gash of splintered boards marking its absence, and the floors beneath it have collapsed. It appears to have torn through the roof of the main building as it fills. as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint, which once covered the church, has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against the wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess this church has been disused for about 20 years. There's little more to interest you. Oh. Make a ride roll. Why? You may have a bonus die. Roll the 10's percentage die twice. And take the lower roll. So here we should actually, so let's roll the d10 first instead of rolling this. So ride, I have 5 in. That's gonna be a, so anything except a 0. I basically have advantage on the 10s. So I mean, if I roll over 5 with the first d10, it's basically not gonna happen. So let's see. Okay. So let's go for 2 d10s then. If one of them is 0, we're good. Oh wait, a d10 can't roll 0. How would I do these then? Wait. Oh, that would just be 10. Right, okay. So, if I don't roll a 10 on either of these dice, it's a fail. Simple as that. Closing eyes. Ooh. Yeah. Figured something like that. Okay. You're beginning to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore more? Why, yes I would. But there's a lot of choices here. There's a lot. I could I could go back and do it again. Oh, I have done that in a sword and sorcery book that basically allowed me to loop back and be like, you can try this again. Well, boy, howdy, am I gonna try? Kept trying till I succeeded. It was so dumb, but like, yeah. Okay. You may choose another option from those below. Do not repeat a previous choice. Once you have tried 4 options, or before that if you're ready to move on. I'm not ready! Okay, so 4 options. So we can do all 3 explores. And 1 ask for transport. I think that's nice. Let's go to the large metal structure then. You walk up the approach. The most central of the village major streets. Well, if it only takes 5 minutes to walk across, it can't be a whole lot of road. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of the nearby buildings, you are greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills in a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron, singed black. It supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up to the central point. It looks like they may have been some kind of sculpture at one point, but are now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with a Romy? I have never seen that word before in my life. And notice, English is not my first language. Romy? R-H, is that Ray? Romy? Yeah, but I'm gonna go with Remy. You here for the festival? He asks. That's the beacon. And they light it right night after next. You'll be able to see it 10 miles away. He gives a little nod of satisfaction, then moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood, tied and stacked against the buildings nearby. Perhaps this festival would be an interesting diversion, but you really must head to Arkham as soon as possible. Spot hidden, eh? Spot hidden. That's just a normal roll. Less than 40. Go! Okay. Yeah. 69. Nice. Ooh. As you walk away from the iron structure, you notice something strange about the construction of the village. All the wooden dwellings are concentrated in the west and southwest. To the east and northeast, closest to the beacon, the buildings are formed from dark brick and clay. Does this mean the settlement began at the beacon and spread west? Or, hear me out. Given that we are playing something called Alone Against the Flames. See where I'm going with this? The wooden buildings are meant for burning. Now I know that clay brick and brick and clay that can still burn, obviously, largely because the inside is wood, because just easily available material. Still though, compared to a fully wooden house, that's a whole lot of burning. I may spot hidden. Well, if this professor makes it through, he's gonna be an interesting character. 25. Okay, so we done the church, we done the metal structure. Let's go and walk down to the lower level. The air is fresh and the walk down to the lower ridge is invigorating. You notice cultivated fields stretching through the lowlands around Emberhead, and among the crops some livestock, but no horses. Are you going to have to make your onward journey on foot? Let's see, that was what I said. Further down, the road skirts the edge of the ridge and descends. There are a few scattered hovels here with signs of habitations. They are set a substantial distance apart. As you examine them, the door opens and an older man steps out. He wears a bedraggled suit but carries a piece of cloth, which he tosses over his shoulder like a hood. As he does this, he sees you and freezes. Okay, lock roll. So that's just this. Oh, nice, very nice. Boop. The man looks up at the village, scanning the cliff tops. You get a brief flash of his face. There's something unsettling about it. Then he turns to walk away from the road, but as he does, he raises a hand and slowly beckons to you. Are we gonna get into a cult that's really into burning things, like once a year, like, oh, that year the beacon lit differently. Like, something like that, I don't know. Curiosity in me wants to be like, sure, let's go, what is this? But I also know that Call of Cthulhu is a horror series. When you're an investigator, curiosity wins this one. This is gonna bite me in the ass, isn't it? Okay, what do we have here? That looks like a cave. Okay, that's great. You follow the man around the outcrop. He glances up, then steps between two rocks and vanishes. Closer inspection reveals a narrow channel leading into the cliff. There's just enough light to see a small natural chamber within. You will be uncomfortably close to this man if you go inside. Well, we're already on this potentially stupid and potentially fatal path. Let's go! Okay. With various steps, you squeeze between rocky outcrops and enter the concealed chamber, almost banging your head on the low ceiling. The man settles back against the wall and watches until you draw close. Then he slides back his hood. Sanity roll. So, lower than 60. Okay. I'm not gonna say that that's possible because my most recent roll seems to suggest that the next one will likely be a high. So, you fail, lose one sanity. So, regardless of the outcome of the roll, this is where you go. Okay. Well, that's not great. Oh! Oh! Two-Face! Remember what I said about that cult of likes to burn things? Yeah, that looks distinctly like burned. Some of the man's face remains. A strip from the side of his jaw to his right eye socket is healthy and pale, if aged. But the left side is consumed by angry scar tissue. One eye droops, hooded by melted flesh, and the nostril on that side is pulled open to leave a gaping hole. The disfigured man studies your reaction with his one good eye. Name's Arbogast. Willard Arbogast. Guess I don't need to ask what brings you to Emberhead. If you claim to have come for the festival. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest with this guy. He's frightening to look at first glance, but I mean, I understand his suspicion, like he's probably an outcast. So May did mention that some of the people in the village had, on their own, presumably, decided to exclude themselves. He, due to his misfiguration, is probably among them. Like, he might not have been pushed out of society, but he might have believed that he would have been pushed out of society, and thus, instead, going full circle, pushing himself out of society. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest with this guy. You can deal with a surprisingly large amount of problems by just being straight-laced, cards on the table, so to say. Obviously, I mean, if you're trying to win at poker, that's not usually the way to go, but this is not poker. I think. 2:14 it is. The swollen mouth gives a little twist downwards. The son of a devil has the rat's blood. His fingers tighten into a fist. Well, I'm guessing the anger is not against me. I hope. Arbogast fixes you with a lopsided yet intense stare. You seek me out, eh? He looks up at the cave ceiling. Which one of them told you about me? Never mind, doesn't matter. Truth is, they fear what I know. They'd never come at me direct. Don't want to end up like old Arbogast. He giggles. The high-pitched sound is all the more grotesque coming from those bloated lips. Then, abruptly, his gaze turns to iron. Ember died 40 years ago, shattered by flame, consumed by the stars themselves. The ancient hill was cleansed by inferno, and from the blackened ground came new life. This is the way of all things. The Abenaki knew. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeves. Except, none of that happened. The flames were turned away, necessary death postponed a year and a year again. And now those over here, he stabs a scrawny finger at the ceiling, think themselves saviors of the village. Think they can defy the great old ones. Ha! Chonka! He shakes his head. That strange errand their lives matter less than the blink of an eye. A fierce intelligence burns in his gaze, but you suspect Arbogast may be quite insane. Should his mood change, it would not be difficult for him to seize one of the loose rocks and crack your skull with it. Okay. He is not hostile yet. So, I think the logic here is like this, asking him about the villagers, that will likely turn him angry, because like he clearly don't like them. Leave while you still can. I'm gonna miss out on some interesting, if potentially deadly information. So, this one, ask about the great old ones. What I know of the Cthulhu mythos, which arguably isn't a lot, is that a lot of it, including one of the deities, question mark, if you could call it that, is literally all about secrets. Which means speaking openly about the great old ones is something that's no, don't do that. Which more or less leaves the only real option being what is the Abenaki. Because I don't think that is mentioned as, let's see, the Abenaki knew, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the more sensible one. Let's try. Okay. The Abenaki, he frowns. They knew this land and cherished it. They lived here in harmony for their allotted time. Air and earth, water and fire. They accepted every daybreak as a gift, and they trod lightly on the land. Yet we came and we ended them. Their time is past. Now ours too must end. Arbogast runs a hand through his hair. A white strip is missing on the left side, displaced by scar tissue. He climbs to his feet. Arbogast pauses in the shadows. There's something about you. something the previous ones never had. Perhaps you can make it through. If you want to hear more, meet me again after dark, 9 o'clock. The graveyard on the other side. He lives on Nalfinger. Don't be followed, else I won't be there. This ain't time of year for a showdown. Arbogast wipes his nose and his sleeve again. Go now. Her eyes are on me. And stranger, don't try to run. You'll never make it. You emerge into the sunlight, blinking and more than a little shaken. You have discovered a secret. Later tonight, the text will offer you a chance to follow up on previous appointment. At that point, if you want to meet with Arbogast again, add 20 to your current entry number and go to that new entry. Oh yeah, that's nice. You turn back to the road and your core business, getting out of Emberhead and onwards toward Ossipee. The ridge gives you a good viewpoint from which you can see the course of the road. It winds with the hills, disappearing into woodland for a while before emerging further on. You lose sight of it somewhere towards a second patch of woodland. By your best estimation, that is at least 6 or 7 miles distant. You see no other settlements or traffic. It may be worth taking a chance and walking. The weather is still mild, but you will need supplies before you attempt it. I'm not gonna try it. That's okay. So now we have the last option. So, which is all based on transport. The general store, I don't think that will grant much. Village Hall. See, the thing is, had I not had this experience with Arbogast, I think Village Hall could have been an interesting place to start. But now that we know that Arbogast does not like the rest of the villagers, Village Hall, which, like, a village doesn't have a leader per se, but this would be the leadership of this village. Arbogast would not like this, and it is possibly going to be an option to bring it up and be like, yeah, there's the old half-burnt guy down in the cave. What's up with him? And that's probably going to get me into hot water. Possibly even quite literally, you know, the face. Look for local people with their own transport needs. I think Town Hall is the one that, or Village Hall, is the one that is... See, if I wanted supplies for a trip to walk out of there, the general store would be where I'm going, but not just because Arbogast said you can't run, but like 7 or 6, 7 miles? That's a pretty decent distance on foot, and that's just what we can see. We don't know what lies beyond that. And going through woodlands? That seemed like a bad idea. Maybe it'll be like, you walk into the fog and it lifts, then you're back in Emberhead. Huh. But I don't think it's going to do that. I think it's going to be more like something is in the woods. Something perhaps not so pleasant. Let's go to Village Hall. What? Okay. The Village Hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It is the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex that serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year. There's a grey-garbed woman passing by. Best come back this afternoon. You ask whether the office has a telegraph. Don't know, she shrugs. Who would we call? You'll have to try again later. Damn it! If you are already... or before that, yeah, so we have to go to 3 now. I'm not happy about it, because I basically wasted time on going to the village hall. But that's sometimes how it is. Not gonna cheat. That's not fun. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown, or anything that might be called a restaurant. It is beginning to look like you will have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face, and she looks several years older. "Get out before the festival," she hisses. "Get out!" She blinks hard, then scuttles back towards her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulder. She smiles. "How are you getting on? You found transport?" Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situations. Try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in of an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now. Help yourself to any food in the house. The door's not locked. You glance at Ruth, where she squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. Okay! It is never, ever a good thing when a child in a horror situation says, "Get out." Oh boy, I'm enjoying this. This is fun. Would love to do this with some people. Like, yeah. Probably have to still get used to it, but if the banter is anything like a D&D group, and this is a more heavy roleplay based, then yeah, definitely. And I know that there is a decent sized community of Call of Cthulhu players on Roll20, so, maybe there's a chance, but I probably won't record that, because, other people kind of have to agree to it as well. This is easier, because it's just me, and I'm okay with me recording me. Blah. So now what? If you ask Ruth about what she said, no! If you ask May about what Ruth says, no, that's even worse. That's gonna get Ruth in trouble. And I don't want to do that. She seems to try and help us. Get out before the festival. Yeah, that's definitely it's not directly a threat. It's more of a, hey, you don't want to be here when the festival goes on. So that's like a helpful, if somewhat unsettling hint. I think I'm gonna go and say nothing. This, yeah. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head towards their home. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead Street holds little to occupy the visitor from out of town. but there are still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage, set out on the hope of reaching another settlement before dark. No. Or you could ask advice from Mr. Winters. Well, that's... Okay, as soon as we've talked to Winters, I'll end this episode because this is getting long. I don't mind that, but it's also getting late. And, well, I need sleep. Eventually. Boop. Okay. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. Yeah. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are now open, and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tingles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked Private. To your left, an opening leads through to a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. Let's see what the notice board says. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community, and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. There's nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly creche services and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colorful. As best you can tell, they depict fireworks, or perhaps a tale of Joseph from the book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead. Or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. In which case it's a seagull. Which is just as terrifying if you've ever been attacked by a seagull. Okay, spot a hit and roll. D100, lower than 40. Yes. Boop. No, closer, but no. Off with you. Move you to the side. 37, off with you. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain that you are visiting on May Ledbetter's recommendation. Well, I'm Clyde Winters. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the open door behind him. Seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. Hint, pro tip, do not quench your thirst with coffee, because it is water-driven, which means that anyone who have been drinking a lot of coffee in relative rapid succession will know that you need to pee more if you drink more coffee. Which means that you are actually dehydrating yourself because you are losing liquids. I mean, it's fine for just a single cup, that's not going to make a difference. But for a longer sustained period of time, yeah, dehydration is a thing. And dehydration from drinking things like coffee is a thing. It's not a thing that happens often because you need to drink excessive amounts of coffee in order to do that. But you can do that. I wouldn't. Boop. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is marked is in marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what presumably is a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair and well tailored, even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. No, this is... So, even if they are a cult, which what we've seen heavily seems to suggest that they are, this is still a matter of hospitality, and he is our host. Boop. The pot begins to gurgle as you exchange pleasantries with Winters. Living here? It's a trade-off like so much in life. He looks past you at a high shelf. I could wish for access to a proper library, of course, but I know myself well enough. I'm strictly a dabbler, and the cities... His face wrinkles in distaste. Too many people. Everybody rushing and shouting. We have a special place here in Emberhead, and someone must accept responsibility for keeping it so. That was my father before me, and now the duty falls to me. He lifts his chin and straightens up. This evening, as the sun sets, look out at the landscape around the village. We have peace up here, halfway to the stars. Are we not privileged? Is this not worth the hardships we must accept? He looks at you speculatively. This seems like a good time to ask about the telegraph. See? We got on somewhat friendlier terms with him compared to what it would be. I mean, it is the same thing. We would not gain anything from this, but, you know, we could have potentially gained something. Boop. The telegraph. Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You were hoping to send a message. I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, but of course they are not so speedy when the problem lies in rural area. I'm expecting a repair the day after the next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in, 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon. One of the farmers might. You explained that you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. See, I haven't, but I kind of figured that was out of the picture. I tell you what, Winters pours you a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How would that be? They might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow? It's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. This might be a little like he is an archivist, like someone who keeps an archive. Probably keeps a semi-active approach to marking down what goes on in the village. Let's go for that. You make a small but flattering remark about a couple of the volumes on his shelves. Winters blushes with pleasure. Well, of course they're not my personal collection. They belong to the village, he says. But I did select most of the recent items. This is the community's library, you see. I put up the private sign to stop people just wandering in from the meetings in the other room, but this is really a public space. You scan the shelves. There is a sparse but respectable collection on mathematics and the sciences, passable sections on history and arts, and a shelf of literature. He has a few lowbrow novels tucked away in a corner, with tatty copies of Bizarre Tales magazine. Quality does not always equate to popularity, I'm afraid. Winters give you an apologetic smile. It is not yet that we should go off, because otherwise it would be 200. Because as you might remember, we should add 20 to whatever is said here, but that's not here. But let's ask him more. This is or at least. Ooh, what might be important? Winters is happy for you to spend the rest of the afternoon in study and offers you an upright but comfortable chair. You have enough time to pursue one line of research in depth. History of the area. That seemed very straightforward and very useful. Read about the festival. That might yield more results, but it might also be that it's just cultist writing of cultist stuff, so basically wildly exaggerated and probably not particularly accurate. Sciences? That seems like a bit of a dead end. Weird fiction, however. There's a decent chance that could actually be a backwards way into something that's relevant. Given that I have high anthropology and high history, I think going for the history of the area, as I have a greater chance of succeeding with those roles, makes more sense. There is no single book on the history of the area, and you have to put together a picture from a variety of slim, specialized volumes. There seems some suggestion that the hill upon which Emberhead is built was a place of reverence for the Abnaki or Abenaki, a native tribe whose name means people of the Dawnlands. The tribe made an annual journey to the hill as the leaves turned the deepest hue of sunset. There is some references to sun rituals performed in the area, but those are not convincingly attributed. The region was caught up in King George's War, and in 1746 British colonial forces counterattacked in response to a raid by the Wabanaki Confederacy, which included the Abenaki. The king's men gave no quarter, and the few survivors among the natives were driven from the land permanently. There seems no confirmed date when Emberhead itself was founded, although there are accounts of settlers on the hill from shortly after the end of the Revolutionary War. The afternoon wears on. You have not quite finished your reading when Winters glances out the window and stands up. He clears his throat. Credit rating roll. I did not expect to be able to roll on that one, but here we go. Credit rating... Where was that at? Ah, here. 30. Ugh. Nope. I'm afraid I have some errands to run before dark, so I must close the library for today. I do hope you will return tomorrow afternoon if you are so inclined. You leave the building with Winters waiting as he locks up. You thank him for the coffee and the access to the library. He disappears off down an alley. You hope to be away from the village before tomorrow afternoon, but it's good to know that there is a place that you can occupy yourself. Ah! As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flicked towards yours several times during the meal. There's an urgency that you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You've been in Emberhead for barely one whole day, and already you feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. So, if you have a previous appointment, this is the time to follow it up. So that's going to be 200. But I think this is a good place to stop, as 200 is an easy number, relatively speaking, to start up next time. So, until next time, we shall see where this story goes. I'm so hooked on this. This is awesome. I wish I had seen something like this before, but there are not a lot of solo adventures just out there. I mean, there probably is, but this one was basically like, it popped up, I think actually on my Facebook feed, and I was like, huh, that seems cool. And then I was like, hold on, I have a screen recorder. This could be an experience. Let's do this. So here we are, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.